Good day all viewers. Selamat datang and welcome to the International and Domestic Virtual Colloquium, COMAT, 2022 by Institute of Teacher Education, International Languages Campus, or better known as IPG-KBA, with the theme, Going Global, Internationalizing Education. I am Tanvir Kosekon, a lecturer in the English Language Department here at IPG-KBA. I will be the moderator for this interesting session today. We hope you will join us till the end of this session because we have two notable speakers for today's forum, signed, sealed, and delivered. Before we get to know them, please allow me to lay out a few housekeeping matters. First, everyone who attends this webinar series will be given a certificate after each session. Therefore, do not forget to register now. The registration link is shown on the screen right now. Second, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to send it through the chat box. The speakers will answer your questions at the end of the session. And last, it would be much appreciated if you could share the link for today's webinar with your colleagues and friends right now. Let's get started. The 21st century and global education is about giving pupils the skills they need to succeed and helping them grow the confidence to practice those skills. With so much of information readily available to them, 21st century or global education skills should focus more on making sense of that information, sharing and using it appropriately. It should also focus on encouraging critical, creative, computational thinking, collaboration, international competence, inquiry, reasoning, and learning how to learn skills in order to survive and to be successful in this ever-changing world. IPG-KBA, via this mini forum, is bringing together a panel, two experienced teachers, to discuss the classroom practices that need to be employed to equip students with these skills. Now, allow me to introduce our speakers for today. Let's begin with Ms. Sivajyoti Arnasalam. Ms. Sivajyoti holds a degree in literature and a master's degree in educational management from University of Malaya. She has been teaching English language for 17 years. She currently teaches at SK Damansara Utama and has served as the head of the English language panel for 10 years. Ms. Sivajyoti believes in integrating technology in her teaching so that learning is fun, interactive, and engaging, as well as to prepare her students for the future workforce. Therefore, since 2014, she has been adopting technology in her teaching. The second speaker is Puan Siti Rubia binti Muhammad Yusuf, who holds a diploma of education in English Studies and a master's degree from the University of Science Malaysia. She has been teaching English language for 14 years. Currently, Puan Siti is teaching at SK Sri Damansara and heads the English language panel. She is a FINCO READS teacher and district English language trainer. So without further ado, let's go on with the topic of the forum today. Signed, sealed, delivered. Classroom practices are related to the actions and strategies teachers and pupils deploy in class during the teaching and learning process. They vary according to social, political, and economic context. So your classroom practice may differ from context to context. Therefore, to start the ball rolling, please tell us briefly about your context, the schools you teach at. Let's start with Ms. Sivajyoti.
Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Tanvir and everyone. Thank you, Ms. Tanvir. Currently I'm teaching in SK Damansara Utama. It's an urban school with 700 over students. This is my first year in SK Damansara Utama. Previously, I taught in SK Jalan Selangor 1 for the past 16 years. So those students are all girls and they belong to B40 groups. So when we teach in a classroom, we always look at the children, their background and the needs when we teach them on the content. So I believe the pupils' background, social and economical background, plays an important role in adapting and imparting knowledge in them.
And Puan Siti, can you please share with us about your school?
Everyone.
Puan Siti?
Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone.
Good morning everyone.
Okay, I to expand about in 2018. This school has only one session and has about 470 students. So basically there are only three classes for each level, each aliran. Yes, it's in Damansara, considered urban area, but most of my students are coming from B40 group. Okay, and if I were to recall during MCO, the PDPR or online learning, it's actually the toughest period for all of us because most teachers who have similar socio-economic background, students like my school, normally the children need to share device with their siblings, right? So yeah, it's quite challenging. As for English usage by the children, I would say only small percentage are using both English and Malay at home. Majority are using fully Malay to talk with their family members and friends. So it's really a challenge for us to provide the support needed to attract them to use English more in their daily life. And I think the most important thing is to change their mindset that English is difficult, because English is not difficult. It's just a little bit challenging. Yeah. That's a little bit introduction from me.
Thank you. So both of you, the schools are located in urban areas, but the students are basically B40 group. For those of you who are not from Malaysia, B40 group are Malaysian citizens who are from the bottom 40% of the Malaysian household income. So you're saying that they are not English language is probably not their first or second language, and they find it a bit challenging to learn English. Okay, let's move on to a second question. And let's talk about this. You know, teaching can be without a doubt a complicated business. So defining effective teaching is not straightforward, and there are many facets to it that combine to make great learning happen, especially when you're dealing with students with different abilities. Can you please share with us what are the three most important elements for effective teaching in general or in your context to help learners become global citizens and equip them with the needed skills as mentioned earlier? Ms. Sivajyoti, please share your thoughts.
Okay, one of the most important element that I believe that is the content knowledge of the teacher. As a teacher, we need to have deep knowledge on the subject to be taught, and we must be able to able to communicate the content effectively to students. Besides that, I believe that teachers also need to have a workshop, to attend or to join workshop sessions, as we call it as PLC, Professional Learning Community, to learn and to exchange knowledge, skills and ideas among educators. So I think sharing among the teachers and our colleagues are important for us to draw out effective learning towards our students. The second element is quality of instruction, whereby as a teacher, as we conduct the lesson, we are able to post effective questioning to the students, so that it will ensure that the students can understand what we have taught them and they go on with the lesson. And we also need to use useful assessment, whereby we can gauge them on the topic learned, whether they could understand and they are able to get the information, and it's a practical part of the theory section that they have learned. The third aspect, I believe, it's classroom management, where teachers are able to use efficient use of lesson time. So let's say it's a lesson of 30 minutes or it's a 60-minute lesson, we can utilize those time or duration effectively by coordinating resources and space, and also managing students' behavior in classroom. So when the students' behaviors are well managed, they were able to pay attention and the lesson will go on smoothly. That is from my part.
Okay, so basically, Puan Siva, you're saying that teachers, in order to, one of the important elements of effective teaching and learning is that the teacher herself must have the content knowledge.
Yeah.
And teachers, we must be involved in continuous professional development by
Yes.
joining professional groups and webinars such as this, so that we continuously increase our subject matter expertise, and also we discuss with other like-minded teachers to improve ourselves and to also get ideas,
Yes,
isn't it? To
true.
exchange ideas
True.
as well. And then you mentioned on quality of instruction, questioning. Would you like to elaborate a bit more on that?
I think yes, sure. When we pose questions to the students, we must make sure the questions are made for advanced students. Maybe it can be challenging questions. We pose them HOTS question, higher order thinking skills question. But if you are teaching a mixed ability classroom students, then we must make sure the questions are, the children can really understand what we are asking. So we have to simplify the questions related to the topic. So from there, when the students respond to us, we will be able to know, oh, okay, my children or my kids in the class are able to understand that topic, that particular text that they have learned. So I think the questioning part is very important, and it actually set a good rapport among the teachers and the students as well.
Okay. Thank you, Puan Siva. And lastly, you mentioned about classroom management. That's a real challenge, isn't it?
Yes,
to be
correct.
able to manage all the different types of characters in the classroom and provide for them so they are able to learn in an environment that is conducive.
Yes.
Thank you, Puan Siva Jyoti. Sorry, Miss Siva Jyoti. Puan Siti, please share your ideas too. Sorry, we can't hear you.
Hello. Whatever Ms. Siva has shared with us just now, I would summarize that in three main points, and that is head, heart, and also hand. Okay, because I believe elements of effective teaching goes around these three: head, heart, as well as hands. Okay, when we talk about content knowledge, it falls under head. Okay, we as teachers, we need to know what is the syllabus, what is the learning standards, what do we need to cover in our lesson. Okay, that is basically head. We need to know the pedagogy approach. Okay, when we talk about heart, it relates to passion. Okay, our love for teaching, when we inspire our colleagues to follow whatever best practice that we currently practicing, and also student relationship, having a good rapport with the students as well as the parents, to me is very important. Okay, and for hands, it's actually our action. Okay, like for instance, managing classroom, class time, and also class preparation, and having collaboration with institution like myself. In 2021, I was part of this program organized by FINCO, where they provide training for the teachers for 1 year regarding reading strategies, writing the right success criteria and learning objectives, and learning how to give smart feedback to the children. I think this is very useful and important to all teachers to have this continuous learning development. And FINCO is, to me, really helped me to revise whatever I've learned in my IPG in my teacher training college back in like almost 2 decades ago. Yeah. So that's from my part.
Thank you, Puan Siti. So I like the diagram you shared with us, the head, heart and the hands. So head, once again, our content knowledge. There is a need for us to continuously make progress with our professional development. Take on more challenges, like trying out different things. Would you like to say something more on that, Puan Siti?
Yes, yes, sure.
Yes, sure.
When I talk about
When
hate,
I talk about hate,
I'm
I'm
urging myself, okay?
urging myself,
I hope everyone,
I hope everyone
don't take this
don't take
personal,
this
but
personal,
but
but when
we are
we are
new class to
new
teach.
class to
Okay?
teach.
Okay. Last year we teach.
Last year we
let's
teach,
say four.
let's say 4.
And this year we
And
need
this
to
year
teach
we need to
level
teach
1, year
level
1.
1, year 1.
To me, we
To
should
me,
take the
we
challenge.
should take the
We
challenge.
don't settle.
We don't settle
Being comfortable,
being comfortable
teaching only
teaching only
one
year,
aliran.
one aliran.
Although yes,
Although
life will
yes, life will much
easier for us,
easier
right?
for us,
Because we are
right?
focusing
Because
on
we are focusing on
group,
one group.
students, children. But take everything else, new timetable given, new responsibility as a challenge because it's part of learning process. Yeah, that falls under heart and hands as well, because hands action, heart is the passion. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so being open to new challenges is also part of being an effective teacher. And you also mentioned about the heart. This is very interesting. Yeah, we need to always create a rapport with students, isn't it? As you mentioned, in order for them to be cool and calm, so that the environment of learning is conducive. And also sometimes, for example, if the student says, I forgot to bring my book, and if a teacher who cares and connects with the student, how do you think this should be handled?
Okay. To me, I think instead of scolding them, maybe we can ask, why do you forget to bring your book? Is anything happened yesterday? Because it happens to me once when my children actually need to stay in the hospital because her mom get warded. So she forgot to arrange all books before coming to school. So she just brought whatever she learned yesterday. So instead of scolding them, ask them first. Okay, because we need to have this. We need to gain the trust from the children so that the lesson will be easier to be delivered to them. And after all, we are their parents at school, right? So yeah, that's where heart plays the most important part.
To connect with them, understand them, and to be kind, so that their emotional state is not is at their best, at the optimum level, and they're able to receive whatever that is to be learned for that day. I agree with you here, because we always have to find out what went wrong at home, what happened, and showing that concern can really change the student's mood, isn't it? Let's say there's a problem at home and that is why they couldn't bring their books, but just showing concern, what happened, and providing them a solution how they could have solved the problem. Perhaps the book went missing, and then you can tell them, please, do your parents know about it? Can I contact them, or can you tell them yourself that the book is missing? Can they help you find it? And that alone will make the child feel like, oh, the teacher is concerned about me and she really cares, and therefore I'm going to try my best on my side to learn. And I'm sure as experienced teachers, you've seen this happening before. And then you also mentioned about hands, and you mentioned about the FinCo collaboration. That's also part of CPD, isn't it? By getting involved in all these projects, you will learn and grow in different ways, and sometimes all these experiences will also enhance your ability to teach in the classroom, isn't it?
Yes.
So thank you very much for sharing, Puan Siti. Let's move on to the next question. Since both of you bearing in mind the responsibility of teachers to prepare pupils for the future workforce and to the global citizens, how can teachers deliver the lessons that they have planned more effectively to achieve this goal? Perhaps you can draw from your experience with examples and tell us more about lesson planning and delivering the lesson. Ms. Sibajyoti, would you like to start first?
Okay, yes, sure. For lesson planning, I believe that the first thing is that we need to set the learning objective. Okay, we need to have a clear learning objectives before we start our lesson. For an example, let's say we are teaching writing for the day. I may set as the children are able to write 3 simple sentences using the verbs given. Okay, so at the end of the lesson, I will ensure that my students are able to achieve that targeted objectives. So as we set the learning objective, we need to cater the students' need and ability. Here I mean need means like advanced students, maybe they can come up with 5 or 6 sentences, but for a mixed ability students, we set about 3 sentences. So we cater their needs and also their ability. The second one, we must ensure in planning our lessons, we can actively engage our students. So involving students actively during the lesson is very, very important. It is important for both the children and the teacher as well. Students, we must make sure that our strategies are student-centered and we have hands-on and involve them. So for an example, let's say they are making sandwiches, so they bring their items in and they involve together in group work, so that get them to get involved effectively. The third one, I believe, in planning our lessons, we also need to compliment the students, compliment positive behaviors and also their hard work. Giving motivations and even like reward stickers or sometimes a simple gift will help them, will motivate them to do better. And I find that when I'm using technology, just sharing an example here, rather than when the children really read deep quizzes, online quizzes, they will try second, third attempt. They will go on for the second and third attempt. When we just give them a worksheet, they just complete it and finish it off. But when we motivate them that, oh, whenever you are able to get a better scores, you will get a sticker or you will get something, some gifts, so they tend to work harder and they put in more effort to achieve the objectives of the lesson. So I believe these 3 are very important aspect, as well as Puan Siti's sharing as well.
How about the learning? Do you think that teachers should share the learning objectives with the students as well?
Yes, at the beginning of lesson, we will share them that by the end of the lesson, you are able to write 3 sentences or you are able to fill in the blanks with at least 5 to 6 words correctly. So it will actually guide them into the correct lesson journey. So without sharing them the learning objective, they might get lost, or they even sometimes we get carried away with other things in the classroom. But when we set the learning objective, the children and the teachers are focused towards the learning objective. And finally, before we end our lesson, we will recap the lesson and we ensure that we have achieved the learning objective. Yes. As well as the success criteria.
Yes, that's very true, isn't it? That sharing the learning objectives with the students is so important.
Yes.
Because they need to know at the end of the lesson what they're going to learn and why they are there. I think students are also, pupils are also always learning for purpose. What are we doing here? Why am I in school? What am I going to learn? And how is this of benefit to me? For example, I'll just share a short story, if I may, about my daughter. And she wants to become a dentist. And she tells me, "Mommy, why do I have to go to school? I I'm not learning how to become a dentist. And like I said, yeah. And then I had to break it down for her, why she's learning languages, because you need to speak with the patients in English or Bahasa. And also why you're learning math, you have to calculate why you have to calculate how you're going to charge your patients. So yeah, as you said, so learning objectives are very important to be shared, so they know why are they doing it, and perhaps even how is this useful in the real world. Thank you so much, Ms. Jyoti. Puan Siti, please share your ideas too.
Okay, I would agree with Ms. Siva. Okay, I agree with Ms. Siva that we need to share our learning objectives as well as success criteria before we begin our lesson. Okay, just a quick recap. In writing learning objectives, we can apply the ABCD technique. I believe most teachers know about this, so I'm not going to talk more on that. Just a quick recap. What A is audience, B is behavior, C is condition, and D is degree. Okay? Not going to elaborate more on this. And why? Why do we need to share success criteria with the students? So that our lesson will be more focused and they will know what they are going to learn. They'll get, everyone will be like sort of like guided because it's displayed on the whiteboard, right? Yes. Next slide, please. Okay, and in sharing the success criteria, we need to simplify the language used in writing the success criteria, because whatever we think is simple is not might be the same case with the children. Okay, so as for my practice, I would love to put I can for the success criteria. I can use words first, next, then last. I can tell the story in sequence, in order. I can tell what the big idea is. I can, and then I just paste it on the whiteboard before I begin my lesson, and then it will be like a checklist. When we end our lesson, we do like some sort of like checking whether we already achieved this criteria or not. And when we tick, when we do the checking together with the children, they will feel like some sense of some sort of like accomplishment from their part, because they can say, yes, I can use words first, next, then last. So it's very important to use to share with them the success criteria and to use simple language in sharing that success criteria. In lesson planning, in our lesson plan, it's okay if the language is not that simple, but then when sharing it with the children, it has to be in their level, in simple language.
Thank you, Puan Siti. Yes, the very good techniques you shared there, the ABCD technique and the retell technique. They are can-do statements. To end the lesson with can-do statements, at the end of the lesson now, I can tell you what I can do with what I have learned. That will leave the kids with a very positive vibe. No, I've learned this, I can do these things before they go on to the next subject. How about this, Puan Siti? You mentioned to me personally before something about planning during the lockdowns. You did a project with the students, and how you planned it. It was very interesting. Can you please share with us and the audience?
Okay. Actually, I've done two projects with the students. The first one is actually the postcard project. Okay. Because my school, majority of them are B40, so they can't join the real-time Google Meet session. They cannot. Most of them can only join, can only submit their work, but cannot join the live session, the explanation part. Okay. So why? Because they need to share device with their siblings, and the class happened to be at the same time. Okay, so what I did was I sent postcard to those who joined my live session the most. I mean, I have this like grading scheme. Those who join at least 5 times, I will send them postcard. So most of my students, they stay in flat or apartment. So when they start receiving the postcard, they will like share with their friends, and their friends like, oh, you got postcard from teacher. Yeah, they know my handwriting, they know my initial, so it get them excited. So I have students who actually share the device with the neighbor, which is a classmate. So I don't mind, because as long as the message delivered and they know how to complete the task, then I think that's good enough already. And when we come to school face to face, we have face to face class. I continue this postcard project with snail mail project, but that I will share it more in the next session. Yes.
Thank you, Puan Siti. So you planned your lessons accordingly. Sorry, I lost you there. Okay, so Puan Siti, so you planned your lessons based on the needs of your students. You were aware that the students had no gadgets, and therefore you opted for the postcards. And during the pandemic, children were looking for this connection with schools, isn't it? And you connected with them to postcards. I thought that was an excellent idea, an example to share with us, that in whatever situations we are, in whatever context we are, we always have to find that one way to connect with our sets of students based on their needs at that point of time. Thank you so much, Puan Siti, for sharing that. Let's move on to this, still regarding planning of lessons, but and especially like both of you are experienced teachers. Can you please share briefly, why do lessons sometimes don't go as planned, and what should a teacher do when lessons don't go as planned? Puan Siti, would you like to share your thoughts first, please?
Oh, okay, I'll start first. Okay. Sometimes this happen when we being too ambitious. Okay, whether we like to admit it or not, it happens because we are too ambitious. We are too eager to teach, and sometimes we forget that the audience is not ready. They don't have the background knowledge. Okay, so when this happen, we can actually get the clue, the cue from the children. When the same question being asked again and again, there must be something wrong with our instruction, perhaps. So we need to pause and then check, and then go repeat again the lesson that is not clearly delivered to them. Okay, because we as teachers, we need to always have backup plan. At the same time, sometimes in our class, there'll be group of students who are very efficient and fast learner. Okay, and they can be the assistant. I mean, they can be the mentor for the smaller groups, and they love doing this because they feel like they have some sort of responsibility given by teacher. It's something that we acknowledge them, and to me that also will help to give signal to us whether the other group of children actually following the lesson well or not. Yes.
So, Puan Siti, so what you're saying is, teachers need to plan well in the first place, and to minimize problems, and also have a backup plan just in case it doesn't go as planned. And the example you're giving is perhaps allow the more proficient students in a language class, for example, to help the students who are not so proficient, who are weak, so that they can move on with the activity. Thank you, Puan Siti. Ms. Siwajyoti, your thoughts, please.
Okay, for lessons when they go unplanned, slide number 6. Okay, as Puan Siti said, sometimes we as teachers, we are too ambitious. When we see our students in the previous class, they are so excited and they are very active, so we tend to come up with texts or lessons which are more challenging. But at the end of the day, we find out that the students may need more help with the lesson. For an example, I remember teaching my year 4 students in SKDU Damansara Utama. We learned about, slide number 6 please. We learned about pyramid in Egypt. So after we have done with the lesson, I was having an idea that I want to introduce Taj Mahal because it's a monument, historical monument, and one of the wonders of the world previously. So I came up with the text. So when I was having the lesson in the classroom, I find that my students, they had difficulties to understand the text. So immediately what I did, actually the text is a comprehension text, and they need to answer true or false statements after prior to the text. But when I find that my students have difficulties in understanding the text, immediately I came up with the idea of having a mind map, because I always have graphic organizers in my lesson. Please show slide number 6. The next slide, please. Okay, so immediately I get the ideas of putting all the ideas into a mind map. So I started questioning my students, what are the main point from the text. Then I put it on the whiteboard as mind map, and I find that students are able to understand the text better, and they get to know. They said Taj Mahal is a monument. It was built by Shah Jahan in memory of his wife. So they were able to extract the main important ideas from the text, and from that they were able to complete the worksheet on answering whether it is a true false statement. Second thing, I would say that students limited knowledge on the topic. As I said, when they learn about Egypt, I thought they would have easier for them to learn on Taj Mahal. So I realized that from known fact to unknown fact, we have to go with the students slow and steadily. The third aspect is the lesson transition, where from easier to difficult, we have to move on from the easier part to the difficult part of the lesson, and from individual work, and slowly we can integrate them into pair work, and later as group discussion. So these are the things that I would work on when my lesson go unplanned.
Okay, when they are when something happens during the lesson, right?
Yes.
So as you mentioned earlier, let me just recap that. We as teachers sometimes become too ambitious, isn't it?
Yes,
as we
correct.
need to limit our activities based on the time given during the duration of the time, the activity, or based on the duration of the lesson. And then sometimes perhaps we anticipate wrongly. Maybe the students have limited knowledge in that area, so perhaps we have to find out beforehand, what do they have this knowledge in order to conduct the activity. And also lesson transitions, always start with the easy, and from there build
Move
on to the more challenging tasks. Thank you, Ms. Siva. How about Puan Siti? Can you share your thoughts, please?
Okay. I want to share one point that I received from Finco training, where when we want to give any text to the children, we should actually assess their reading age, and I wouldn't shy to admit that I'm just aware about this reading age recently. Okay, so this reading age, giving them the test to test whether they are up to, let's say, year 4, they are 10 years old, right? But when I did the reading age, half of my class is actually in preschool or year 1, 7 years old. So the text, I cannot just simply give up and give them short text, but I can still give them 2 paragraphs, for instance, but I provide support for the vocabulary used in the text. So always check the background knowledge of the student, and at the same time do follow up and continuously giving smart feedback, and teach them to give feedback to their friends as well. Constructive feedback from peers sometimes is more effective rather than only teachers giving feedback. So that's what I did.
Okay, thank you, Puan Siti. So following up, part of planning is also having a follow-up lesson, yeah? So if you've thought something, as you said, you need to follow up with that and see how far they have mastered and how to progress from there. Thank you so much, Puan Siti. Before we move on, I'd just like to remind the audience, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box now. Thank you very much. Let's move on to classroom practice. Can you please share 5 of your best classroom practices in order to instill creative, critical, and computational thinking, collaboration, intercultural competence, inquiry, reasoning, and learning how to learn skills in order to survive and to be successful in this ever-changing world? And why do you practice it? Puan Siti, would you like to go first?
Okay. Like I've mentioned earlier, one of the project that I've conducted is actually the postcard or snail, and this also can we can do this collaborative. I mean, we can ask teachers from my previous school before I was transferred to Bandar Baru Sri Damansara 2. Actually, I was teaching in Jitra Kedah. So what I plan to do, instead of just sending postcard within Selangor, maybe we can expand it to from Selangor to Kedah, and then even can even explain to the children. We can also encourage them to have pen pal. Yes, I know right now we are more comfortable using email, right? Electronic mail. Message can be delivered within a second. But then postcards or snail mail, we have this a soft touch that I don't think electronic mail would have that. Okay, and secondly, I also do collaborative work with my PSV teacher, where I did this project storyboard, and I asked the PSV teacher to explain how to draw figures, like comic type figures, and the children will explain the story using English. So collaborative work actually can be done within school as well. With the, like my case, I did with my PSV teacher. Okay, can I have the slide? Sorry.
The art teacher?
Yeah, the art teacher. PSV is art teacher.
PSV is art teacher. So.
Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry, please continue.
Beside that, when I teach my year 5 students, okay, the topic is towns and cities. In the textbook, it's all about London, about Edinburgh, Scotland, okay. Some teachers might feel like, why do we need to expose them to these cities? While in fact, we need to teach them about our own city first, okay. But I have a different thought. We can actually, we teach them about London, but at the same time, we take the, let's say, the vocabulary used in that unit, and teach them to use that when they want to describe their own town. Okay, I'm sorry that I don't have the picture of that project where I asked my children to draw their own town map. And before that, I asked them to, I paste the world map on the whiteboard, and then I asked them to choose a country that they wish their town will be in. So one of my students choose Iceland, okay, as the country. And their city's name is actually Boba City. Do you know Boba? Boba City, the famous drink.
The famous drink.
Do you know
Yes,
that?
yes,
You know that?
yes.
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 Majority of the students only choose like Kuala Lumpur, like Damansara, but this one group, they think out of the box. Okay, they choose the name of their city, Boba City, and they even choose Iceland as the country. And when I asked why do you choose Iceland, because they said we are Boba City, and the drink will always be chill. So I was like, okay, although it sounded funny, but there's reasoning there. Okay, then it shows that they know the climate in Iceland, and besides that, they said they choose Boba City because it's a famous drink, so everyone will know how to pronounce their cities. the name of their city. So a good reason, to me, that is a good reasoning already. Okay, and I think I share that first with, and I'll share more after Puan Siva continue. Okay.
Puan Siti, carry on talking, Puan Siti. Head to stream.
Sorry, Miss Siva, can you continue?
Yes. Okay, in 2014, with the implementation of VLE Frog into lesson, I started integrating technology into my lesson. For one main example that I would like to share today is about Padlet, using Padlet. Padlet it's like an organizer where the children can really upload their videos, their documents, their evidence into the classroom Padlet, where I design it. Can you please show slide number 5, please? Okay, if you can see, the teacher created the Padlet with their names, all the children's name. I organized it, I typed their names, and I let the children to upload. So the first lesson for that day, I was teaching them slide number 5, please. Yes, correct. Okay, I taught the students on how to prepare a simple healthy recipe using, they can use PowerPoint slides or Google Slides or even video. So I find that the first slide was created by me, I shared during the lesson. The next lesson would be the students' output. So when I created the Padlet with their names all over, like Linisha, Nur Aina, Adriana Safa, these are my students in 2021. So my year 6 class students. So they came up with their own recipe. I told them they can do the recipe like healthy sandwich, they can do at home, take photos and just arrange accordingly in their PowerPoint slides or in their Google Slides. So some of the students, they go beyond when they are able to do TikTok. Nowadays children are very much exposed to TikTok, so they came up with few videos which are very interesting, and they have their tags in the videos as well. So I asked them to upload in my Padlet. So when they uploaded, so they were able to see other friends' outcomes as well. So when they see their friends are doing better videos, they are able to comment, and they started motivating their friends. Oh, yours looks so wonderful, how you created these? So they ask these kind of questions, and I find that complimenting each other happens among peers. So this is one of my best practice that I would say. And when I integrated quizzes in my classroom, children get excited, they get motivated, and they always look forward for my lesson. Even in my new school, I taught the year 3 first. At the end of the lesson, they always ask me, Teacher Jyoti, are we going to play quiz again today? So they are so eager and excited. So they wanted to end the session with quiz relevant to the topic. Let's say I'm teaching them adjective, I'll make sure they have 2 sets of quizzes so that they don't, at the end of the lesson, they don't get bored, and I find that I achieved my objective, learning objective. The other thing that I would say that I always use a graphic organizer. Please go back to, can you show slide number 8? I always make sure that I use graphic organizer, especially iThink map. Mostly I'll use circle map, double bubble map, and even tree map in my lesson, and I have the mind map. So when I teach cross curriculum element subjects like science and mathematics and even like history, I'll make sure that I connect them with using these graphic organizers. And while using these graphic organizers, I always encourage my students to use highlighters in classroom. So when they make things colorful, they tend to enjoy the lesson and they tend to remember the topic better compared to using pencils and even erasers as well. So the other thing that I wanted to share is I always make sure that they work as a team. This is more useful while teaching writing. So sometimes when two head is better than one. So when they get into their groups, into their peers, they don't feel shy to express idea, to express their viewpoints and so on. So when they work as a team, I can really train them to be better leaders, to be better group members, and they tend to come up with good outcomes. So their sentences are far better compared doing individual work. So whenever I teach writing, I'll make sure that they have group to work on. Either it is a group of 3 members or 4 members. I always limit 3 to 4 so that everyone can participate well and they can contribute, share their ideas together effectively. So these are the main best practices that I would share. Other than that, we have a few where I also always encourage my students to learn from mistake. Sometimes I ask my students to mark their friends' work so that they learn, especially on spelling. So when the teachers are finding fault, they don't really bother, but when they are marking their friends' work, they always find for little mistakes and even spelling. So from that they learn, oh teacher, I know it is so difficult to become a teacher, you need to mark a lot of things, you need to concentrate on so many things, but now I know I also tend to make these spelling errors and all that. So I always let them lead. So these are my best practices lah.
Thank you, Ms. Devajyoti. So you shared with us the kinds of activities that you use. Use a lot of technology in your lessons, I see. As they say, technology can't replace a teacher, but a teacher who can't use technology will be replaced by a teacher who can.
Yes, true.
So you use a lot of Padlet in your teaching, and we can see that there's a lot of creative and critical thinking happening in these lessons, where they have to make decisions on the kind of designs they want to put up. There's a lot of collaboration as well, right?
Yes, correct.
Collaboration and teamwork within the class, within the classmates, within the pupils, where they provide feedback to each other, they complement each other's work, and that can be very motivating. Instead of just producing something for the teacher, it's also can be seen by the other students, where they can get ideas and learn more, as well as it provides them motivation, especially when they receive positive feedback, not only from the teacher but from their friends. And then you also said you use quizzes. It's amazing. Pupils, this is young children especially, they love to read on the tablet rather than the hard copy.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So changing and planning lessons where the quizzes are not written on paper, but rather doing them
colorful.
online. They're more colorful and they can click, and it's more engaging for pupils these days. They get glued to doing work using the gadget rather than having pencil and paper. And you also use graphic organizers, where they prepare these graphic organizers using the computer. So once again, is technology coming in, teaching them, preparing them for the future, where we'll have to use computers to complete our work. Yes, and I see a lot of teamwork and collaboration taking place. It's wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Devajyoti, for sharing with us. Puan Siti is, can we get, okay, so I think Puan Siti has problems with her connection, but from what she shared, I'll just summarize with a little bit she shared. So sorry about that. She talked about collaborating with other subject teachers in the school. So the interdisciplinary learning that's taking place here is commendable. We've got her online again.
Yes.
Puan Siti, yes, I think
Hi.
could you please continue? Thank you so much.
Okay. I want to continue the collaboration with other subject teacher. Okay. I just want to share because right now we are focusing more on PBL, right? Project-based learning. For instance, for year 6, let's say we want to collaborate with science, art, and math teacher. So what we can do, for a start, we tell them to create maybe some clothes, or using recycled material, and then explain the materials from little bit from scientific view with the help of science teacher, and then to do some costing, we involve the mathematics teacher, and then basically English as well. So we covered 3 subjects already: English, science, and mathematics. We can do collaboration with our colleague at school. So because if we do it in isolation, it will be very tiring for the children. It will be very demanding for them to have separate projects. We can collaborate with one project involving at least 3 subjects.
Okay. Thank you very much, Puan Siti. So I was trying to summarize. Thank you for joining again. You shared with us about collaborating with other teachers and how students then can see that they're just not learning a subject alone, but it's connected with other subjects that they're learning. That English could be connected to art. It's connected to science, and then giving them a whole view of the world, that things are not done alone, but it's in collaboration with other subjects, so they get a clear picture that's the real world out there. That maybe even reading in English, you're reading something about science, you're reading about something about the environment, you're also drawing something with regards to an English idiom, for example, or something to that extent, and you have a lot of group work there taking place in your lessons as well. Thank you very much for sharing with us, Puan Siti and Miss Sivajyoti, about your classroom practices. Now we'll move on to the Q&A session. A short question and answer session, since we're running out of time, but we'll just take 2 questions. One question is I think directed to you, Puan Siti, regarding the postcards. They worked well during the pandemic. How about now, during post-pandemic? Do you still use them in your lessons, and how do you use with technology as well? Are you still using the postcards with your set of students?
I let my student try e-card, electronic card instead. Yes, because when we have face-to-face, they can come to the computer lab and then use the computer. So those who don't have that chance at home, they are able to do it now, because we don't want them not knowing how to send electronic cards or email. So instead of continuing with the postcard, I change it to electronic card. Yes.
So they probably send to each other, and they receive cards from each other?
At first, because they don't know how to email, so I asked them to send it to me first. And then I displayed it on the LCD on the screen. So they were like, okay, teacher received mine already. So they get excited and they start ask their friends email, and then they start sending to their friends first. And then the class, primary to secondary students. Yeah.
It's wonderful. So then they learn another skill, how to use email, how to send emails to each other. Gets a real world skill, which is very useful in today's workforce, isn't it? We can't survive without emails. Thank you so much, Puan Siti. One last question before we end. Can you share how you accommodate students' different learning abilities? How do you accommodate students' different learning abilities in the classroom? Ms. Siva, would you like to answer the question, please?
Okay, sure. But before that, I just want to add to the postcard. I also used postcard in my class. As I said, I integrate technology and also the manual postcards in class. I printed postcard for my year 4 students, and I told them to share their experience of their their last school holiday somewhere in February. So when they come in front and read out to their friend, they can actually express their feelings so well. So I feel that rather than using technology, we also have these manual kind of things. So students are very expressive when they express their feeling, they express their ideas and thought towards their friends. So it is something nice to see in the classroom happening. And for their lessons, how we accommodate students' different learning abilities. As I said, when we plan our lesson, we always cater the students' ability. For those good ones, they are independent learners, so they can work on their own, so they can move on to the next level of activity or the second activity. For the weaker ones, normally we put them in a small group of 3 members, so we have user-friendly worksheets for them, and once they are done, we get the good ones, like it's a mentoring system, mentor and buddy system, so the good ones to come and help out the slow learners to achieve the lessons objective as well. So this one of different strategy that we used, put them as a team, and we give them a simplified version of worksheets to help them. And sometimes, like as I said, some children, they tend to forget to bring tools needed for their lesson, for that particular lesson. So as teachers, we are ever prepared with our own resources to cater the students if they forgot to bring their tools like A4 papers, scissors and glues and all that needed to do a project. As teachers, we provide them all these materials so that they don't left behind, so they never isolate themselves in the classroom. So these are the things that we practice in our classroom.
Okay, so you're saying that you practice a differentiation through the tasks that you give, you simplify the task sheets for the weaker learners, and you have a mentoring system as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. We have come to the end of the forum, and we hope that you have gained some insights into effective classroom practices and enjoyed this session. We wish to thank you. We wish to thank our speakers for spending their precious time with us on this platform today. And to our wonderful participants, thank you for attending. We would also like to thank the Educational Technology Division, MOE, for the platform, and all my lovely colleagues at IPG KBA who have been working behind the scenes. Please do not forget our next webinar, which will be held tomorrow, 11th August, Thursday, entitled Break the Norm, Innovate and Practice. And it will be live at the same time, 10 a.m. Malaysian time. Till then, goodbye from Malaysia.
Thank you, Ms. Tanbe, and thank you.